Thank you, Lynn, and thank you everyone so much for attending and taking the time to attend this. It certainly is pure coincidence that Tropical Storm Elsa tore through the Low Country this morning. The day that we set our webinar, I promised that we had to schedule it ahead of time. So it is a coincidence that we had it planned for this, but I hope everyone's family and property fared well during the storm. I'm hopeful that the only thing that anyone lost during the storm was just a few hours of some restful sleep. I'm sure Tom can appreciate that. But it does lead to a discussion on the importance of being prepared for a hurricane. So your relationship with Atlantic States Management does allow you the confidence to have during hurricane season. We are prepared to service your association and also your commercial property. So if you haven't been with us during the past few years, you may not be aware of what our role is during hurricane season. So first, just to let you know, we definitely are bracing for the storm. So when you turn on the Weather Channel and see that we are in that cone of uncertainty, there are several things that are happening. Our staff is securing the common ground items such as pool furniture, and for our commercial associations, patio furniture and such. We are going through our properties and ensuring that gutters and storm drains are inspected to ensure that they are debris free. And we're also evaluating trees for potentially hazardous limbs, and all of this is to ensure your safety on the common grounds of your properties. Anytime that an evacuation is ordered, we want to further prep any of our properties. So we go a step further. Our managers will work with boards to finalize some action plans. We will definitely communicate with our residents on any procedures so that they are aware of what's happening on their property. So our managers will make them aware that we are going to do such things as shut off gas lines, move pool furniture and patio furniture that's on the common property to secure storage areas. Once everyone is usually evacuated, we will secure the gates. We'll tie those back. If you're in an HOA, we'll tie those back, because what happens if there's a loss of power after the storm is you'll want to make sure that those gates are open for people to come in and out. In condo associations, we will raise elevators from the ground floors. And this is, of course, after giving all of the owners plenty of time to evacuate. And then, of course, if sandbagging on some of the oceanfront condo associations is needed, we'll do that as well. Unfortunately, Atlantic States has had some hands-on experience over the past couple of years. We've actually evacuated twice. During Matthew, we booked about 17 rooms for our staff and families, and that provided our managers the ability to continue working on your property even after we had evacuated. So during Matthew, we worked continuously before the storm. We were evaluating what was needed. While Matthew was still days away, and that seemed to kind of drag on, we were lining up vendors to ensure that your properties were the first that those vendors were going to take care of. Once the storm hit, we remained in communication with board members. We were updating residents via emails and e-blast, and we were updating them several times on the conditions of their properties. And this gave our residents a realistic expectation of their condition of that property, and it gave it to them in real time. We were able to do this because we were in constant communication with all of our vendors. We had eyes on the properties. For example, we actually had our sponsor, Carolina Landscape, one of our vendors, was on site, and Marty was able to go in and clear debris and update us on those initial property conditions, just hours after Matthew had hit. And that allowed the owners, to go ahead and, especially if they had already evacuated, they already knew what their property looked like. That's also further allowed our staff to be able to line up, disaster response vendors, tree companies, general contractors, roofers, water mitigation companies, and they had specific tasks that they were tasked with for immediate response. so that once we were able to be allowed back in Beaufort County, they could get working on your property. So with all that said, not all hurricane planning is done on site once a storm appears up on the Weather Channel, though. It's important to be prepared well ahead of the storm. And for our associations, that definitely includes having discussions with boards and with your manager to make sure the operational issues that I just mentioned are taken care of, but also financial planning, and that takes time to set up. Having sufficient funds on hand, such as an insurance reserve fund, so that you're ready to pay an insurance deductible if needed to start a large reconstruction project, is pretty critical. It's also pretty expensive, and boards need to understand this cost. So, for example, a 1% wind deductible on a $20 million insurable value, such as a condo that's on the beach, is $200,000. These funds need to be set aside for that insurance deductible. They need to be separate from your normal operating funds, because once that storm passes, you still have operating expenses. So you want to make sure that you have those insurance deductibles already funded for. Also, if repairs are required, funds are also needed to begin construction, and that's going to be right away. Vendors are going to want to get paid for their time, and it could take up to 18 months or so for an insurance claim to be settled. So we can secure lines of credit as an option for disaster relief. Some boards already have that funding set up and the reserve as well. But these are items that boards need to make sure that their properties have in place, and definitely hope that they never have to be used and touched. A lot of that has to do with condo associations. I don't want to leave out any HOAs from this discussion, as we have so many of our HOAs in our portfolio. Homeowners association boards need to make sure that there's also funding for emergency relief. Debris removal is extremely costly, something that they probably don't think about until a hurricane is kind of impending. But for example, we have an HOA that had, with Hurricane Matthew, over $100,000 in tree removal on their, and that was just for common property. That was their common areas and then their roads. So because some people don't understand that private communities are not allowed, or they're not included in that municipality debris removal. So this is kind of an expense that you would need to have paid by your association funds. You want to make sure that you have those funds available and ready to pay out should a hurricane hit us again, knock on wood. So kind of in wrapping up, Atlantic States is definitely here as your partner in hurricane preparation. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and contact me anytime. And I will pass this back over to Lynn as she has some more details and some great features for you.
You're so wonderful, Andrea. Thank you so much for that information. It's so important to be prepared in advance. It's difficult, and it can be very difficult for your community association, but oh so important. So I wanted to point out that in the email that I sent today with the link for this meeting, we shared some PDFs. We shared the Associa Hurricane Guide, which is some key information and helpful advice to help your community in preparing for the storm and kind of what to do during and after. We also provided the Hilton Head document and also the state hurricane guide document. I know that it was probably a lot to receive in your email today, but we wanted to make sure that we shared this information with you, which supplements and adds to all the information we're going to go through this evening. So I want to take a couple of minutes to talk to you about Association's Insurance Agency. And this is our Associa Insurance Agency, our Associa Insurance Broker. While they're part of our Associa team, they are a standalone insurance broker. They focus on homeowner associations, condominium associations, and townhome associations. This is what they do and have done since the very beginning, in offering competitive insurance quotes with fantastic coverage to compete with your local brokers. and they're available at any point in time. If anyone's interested in learning more, we call them AIAI, Associations Insurance Agency. Please let Andrea or your community manager know, and we can definitely reach out to them to obtain a quote for your community. I also want to point out and share some information about our LHR restoration company. LHR offers a fantastic service, mostly to condominium associations, but if you are on the board for a homeowners association and have large amenities, clubhouse, swimming pool, you may also be in need of LHR as well. LHR is available to help you in the emergency response and restoration, representing you through the insurance claim process, all at no cost to your association. How it works is they represent the association in case of the emergency, and they take care of the insurance claim, representing the association to make sure you get the absolute best response from the insurance. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. From your policy, and that they make sure that they cover everything that needs to be repaired on your property. They then will oversee and take care of the project management through that reconstruction project. So this is a great resource for you. There's no obligation for you to use them, but we did want to pass along that LHR is a great resource for many communities in our areas that are hit by hurricanes. And if you're interested, please reach out to our teams. We'd be more than happy to share some information, some additional information, and get you in touch with them. So guess what time it is? It's time for our very first raffle. Our very first raffle tonight is going to be for a $50 gift card. It's courtesy of Carolina Landscape. And I am going to have to get to my list really fast. Give me just 1 second. Sorry, Tom, I'm not quite ready for that yet. And have to figure out how to get to my list. So we had about 25 people who RSVP'd for this evening. We have 9 people on the call. Yay! So that is greater odds for the 9 who are on our call. So I'm going to have Tom, if you're willing to help me out. Don't look at my list on the screen. Close your eyes and pick a number 1 to 24.
21.
Number 21. Let's see if David Kraut is on the call. Is David on the call tonight? We could be doing this forever. So how about we do this? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I can see everyone on my list. Rather than doing that, hold on 1 second. All right. Instead of doing that, I'm going to do it just with our people who are in attendance. All right. So I have, can't see everybody. Sorry, I'm trying to get it so I can see everybody. Boy, what a day. All right. All right, let's do 1 through 9. Tom, you want to pick one?
7.
7. Is Holly Pratt. Is Holly Pratt available?
Hi, I'm here.
Holly, you're the winner of a $50 gift card. Congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
So Holly Pratt is the winner of the first one. And later on in our presentation, after Tom is done speaking, we're going to do one more and look forward to our next winner. All right, let me see if I can get my screen to share back. I think you guys can see my screen still, right? Let's see where I'm at. All right, how's that? We're doing good? All right. So I would like to introduce Tom. It's Tom, right? Tom Dunn. You say Thomas on your GoToMeeting. Tom Dunn, who is the emergency manager for Hilton Head, and he has been so fabulous to work with us tonight in this presentation. Tom, I'm going to let you take it away, and I will drive through your slides. So just tell me when you want me to switch.
All right. Well, first, thank y'all for having me tonight. A little bit about myself is I'm originally from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Public safety has been my my career from day one. Volunteer firefighter many years ago, and I was very fortunate to be a career firefighter in the city of Alexandria for many years. A back injury pushed me out of the fire service and into emergency management, so I switched careers, and then eventually went to work for the Commonwealth of Virginia as the state planner. So I wrote and managed the state plan for a while. Shifted from there to the it's called the Urban Area Security Initiative for around the city of Richmond. So I helped planning and things like that for the 20 counties and cities around the city of Richmond. So that was kind of neat. And then in 2012, the opportunity here came open. So I've been here since 2012. So from Hurricane Matthew forward, I've been here and had the experience of all those. So we want to jump to the first slide there. There we go. So what we're going to talk about the hurricane season, kind of this presentation is kind of titled "What You Need to Know," but it's a broad a broad presentation. I talk about the town of Hilton Head Island a lot because that's where I work, but a lot of these things are applicable to the other municipalities within Beaufort County, i.e. the town of Bluffton, Port Royal, Beaufort, all those. So it's very similar processes. We just do things a little different. So if you hear me refer to the town a lot, that's why. Next slide, please. So I always like to start with last year. This was the hurricanes that are the named storms last year. As you can see, it was a pretty crazy season. Fortunately for us, we really didn't have a lot of activity. We had one storm that really kind of sparked us up, and I for the life of me I can't pronounce it, so I won't. But that one was the one storm that kind of gave us a little activity. But as you can see, looking in the Gulf, they took the brunt last year. Our friends in the Gulf Coast had a very busy year, along with being having COVID on top of that. Next slide, please. So the next slide coming up is really the same view, but in a different format. I hadn't seen this view before. I really liked it because it puts a better global picture on all those storms. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to find this moving forward because I really like this view. Next slide, please. So a lot of people like to talk about the forecast. And I think it's kind of interesting to talk about. What I have on the slide there is Colorado State. I like what they do just because they pick a number, and you'll see that some of the others do ranges. But you can see in April of last year, their forecast was 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes, which is a category 3 or above. One of the things that they do is every couple of months throughout the hurricane season, they adjust their forecast. So you can actually look at the trend and how their forecast goes up and or down throughout the year based on the number of storms, conditions of the water, atmosphere, all the science that goes into it. But I think it's interesting to see what the forecast was with 16, 8, and 4 to what actually by the end of the year, what it actually looked like. And the end of the year, the total, we broke multiple records, with the number of named storms throughout the year, and ended up being 30 named storms, 13 hurricanes, and 6 major storms. So it was an incredibly active year. Next slide, please. There we go. So here's the forecast for 2021. You can see that NOAA and Colorado State are pretty much in the same realm. One of the things is that NOAA usually does a range. They have 13 to 20 named storms and where Colorado State has 17. and then 3 to 5 major hurricanes, and Colorado State is 4. So I think it's interesting to look at those numbers, but in the great scheme of things, it's cool from a scientific perspective and a research perspective, but for us, it really doesn't make any difference. The only one in that stack that matters is the one that actually impacts us. So next slide, please. And if you guys hear some banging in the background, I apologize. There's a contractor doing some work at the house. The rain slowed him down, so he's working late today to catch up. So, so Saffir-Simpson scale, everybody knows what that is. You hear it talked about over and over and over again. Category 1 through 5, and if you follow some of the funny memes on social media, there's a category 6 through whatever, it gets kind of funny. But the Hurricane Center has 5 categories. So the one thing to that's not included in the Saffir-Simpson scale, it actually states what it is in the title. It's a Saffir-Simpson wind scale. So in this scale, it does not include water. This storm, the categories do not include storm surge. That's a completely different number. So a lot of times you'll hear, you hear people say, it's a Cat 1, I'm not going to sweat it. But you could have a Category 1 storm with, pick a number, a 10-foot storm surge versus a Category 3 with a 5-foot storm surge. So the category is very, very important, but it's also very important to pay attention to the storm surge and what that storm surge number is. Next slide, please. So I think this is a really, really important slide, and feel free to share it far and wide. I can't take credit for this. The Hurricane Center actually created this slide and was gracious enough to share it with me. But one of the things that I hear all the time, and they hear all the time, it's only a Category 1 storm. I'm not going to leave. Only a Cat 1. It's not that big a deal. I'm not going to leave. So they actually took the since 2010 and those 10 storms there that were only Category 1 storms, and you can see the numbers: 185 direct deaths related to just Category 1 storms, and $110 billion in damage related to just a Category 1 storm. So pay attention. Category 1 is not, people take that for granted. Same thing with a tropical storm. You guys saw what some of the damage was just for a low-end tropical storm last night. So they need to take these storms seriously. And this is a great slide to share and to talk about the importance of paying attention to that Category 1 storm. Every single year, the Hurricane Center updates their updates products and new products. The next slide, please. This year, they really didn't have a lot of updates. You can go ahead and go to the, yeah, there we go. I threw this back in there. This became an official product last year or the year before. I'm sorry, I can't remember which, but it's a timing graphic on the arrival of tropical storm force winds. It's a great tool. You can go in there and you can adjust to most likely or most or earliest possible, and it'll adjust those timelines for you. So it's really helpful for us in making evacuation decisions, in making whether we're going to move personnel, when we move those personnel, when we open our EOC, all those things. So that's a great tool that they have, and you can get that tool. It's on there. It's on their website. You go to the Hurricane Center, and it's right there with the stack of the air cone and all those things along with it. Next slide, please. I think you get a little lag there. There we go. So
yeah, it's slow. Sorry, Tom.
That's all good. So the one of the things that they did do this year is the tropical outlook. I'm sure you've all seen the tropical outlook. Historically, it has started June 1st. This year, they made the decision to move that tropical outlook up, and they started pushing that product out and tracking those potential tropical disturbances on May 15th. So they began to publish that on May 15th, and it got a lot of confusion, to be honest with you, in some of the social media worlds, that people were saying that the hurricane season that wasn't the case. It's just this product was being published a little early, and it created a little confusion with folks in the public. So it's just they moved the product up. The hurricane season did not change. Next slide, please. All right, So one thing that got a lot of publicity last year was going into the Greek alphabet. This year they decided not to use the Greek alphabet anymore, so they've eliminated that. Really for two reasons. One is the hype that it created. So much of the media and social media was talking about in the Greek alphabet, and the intensity, the storm, its track, and the impacts to the communities were underscored, for lack of a better way of saying it. They just weren't at the forefront where the name was. And secondly, a couple of the names were retired because of the size of the storm, the damages, and the fatalities associated with it. So they've eliminated that, and that to eliminate that confusion. So next slide, please. So they created a list of alternate names. So this is the 2021 list of alternate names. So if they go through the entire list that they have this year, they will go to Andrea as the first one outside of that list. And you can go to the Hurricane Center, and they have those names listed there, along with the names, the hurricane names or the named storms for this year. Next slide, please. So I just want to really quickly just talk about how our emergency management works in South Carolina. Essentially, we are a subject of the county. We're below the county in the great scheme of things. So anything that we do in the way the code works, the way the law works in South Carolina is our plan is in coordination with the county, and the county is in coordination with the state. And the same thing goes for help. For example, if we need something that we don't have, we go to Beaufort County to see if they have that resource, and then to the state. We don't go directly to the state and ask for that resource. The best example of that is, for us anyway, is Hurricane Matthew. We needed some urban search and rescue teams, so we made that request to the county. The county didn't have that, and then to the state. So the next slide here is our organizational chart. I won't spend a lot of time on that because it's just that we internally, we function like an incident management team. We function like, you've seen the groups that go out to the west of the wildfires and help and support them. We organized in that fashion because we're small. And so if we request an incident management team to come in and help us, they come in with an incident commander, a logistics chief, plans chief, operations chief, finance chief. As you can see, kind of in the middle of that org chart, the larger blocks, it says logistics, planning, operations, and finance. So we operate like that. So as those groups come in, they can fill those roles much easier. And then for us, as you go down, then we start to look more like the town. We have our infrastructure services branch, which is our infrastructure services department. We have our community development branch, which is our community development department, and then fire rescue, which is our fire rescue department. So in any municipality you go to, and even the county, they use a different format, but it's a similar concept. Next slide, please. You can go ahead and hit it, and I think it'll jump to the next one. The potential hazards on the island. I think, yeah, there we go. I won't run through these and talk about these in detail. We all know what they are. A couple of them that kind of intrigue folks and make them kind of scratch their head a little bit. Most people don't realize that we do have a tsunami risk here on the East Coast. It's much different than the West Coast. Our risk is much much and our potential inundation is much less. You know, if you're based on the models from the University of Delaware, if you're 3 or 4 blocks off the beach and on the second or third floor of a building, you're going to be fine. But that risk is there, even though it is a minimal risk. And then terrorism is one that people don't like to talk about. But we have a lot of military in Beaufort County. We have a lot of large events in Beaufort County, including the RBC Heritage on Hilton Head. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there. So that is a potential in Beaufort County. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about some hurricane stuff. You can go ahead and jump to the next slide. So as far as preparedness, I think you guys got emailed our full preparedness guide. We have 2 versions of this guide, a large version and a small, and it's in English and Spanish in both. Our small is what we call a field guide. It's a spiral bound about a 20-page book, really heavy cardstock. It's designed to write in. It's designed to, create your checklist, check things off, write phone numbers down, that type of stuff. The field guide is available at any town facility in English and in Spanish, but it's also available on the town's website, so you can download the field guide or the full preparedness guide, which is actually, if you go jump to the next slide, please. So that's not the best representation, but it was best I could do with the way it's set up on the internet. But we used to have this large book that we had. We called it our preparedness guide, and it was 28, 30 pages, give or take. A lot of information in it, but it is very large and it's cumbersome to use, to carry. You can't drop it in a backpack very easily, or a pocketbook, or even in your pocket. So we created the field guide to be able to do that, but we didn't want to lose all that information that we had. So we created this, we transitioned our larger book into an online type magazine. So if you go into any of the local magazines online and you can just flip the pages, it's the same way. It's an online magazine. But the cool thing is we also we enabled you to be able to download it into a PDF, which you guys got in your email. So you can download the entire document if you want, or just the pages you want. But there's a lot of information in there we just didn't want to lose. And we figured this was the easiest way to do that. And that's also available in English and Spanish. Next slide, please. There we go. And you guys got emailed the South Carolina Hurricane Guide. If you can get your hands on the paper version as well, it's a great guide. It opens up. It's very colorful. It's easy to use, and there's a lot of great information in it. Normally we buy a stack of them and give them out, but we didn't do that this year just based on timing. But we do have a link to that one as well on our town website, or you can go to, it's linked on the county's website as well, the emergency management page for the county, and on the State Emergency Management Division's website. Next slide, please. All right, some great resources for making your kits. A lot of the same information that is in our preparedness guide is also on disaster ready, or I'm sorry, ready.gov. That's a great resource. It's got great stuff for kids, great stuff for teens, adults, elderly, special needs. All those things are in there. And it's a great resource. And still we're still in the COVID world, depending on where you go and what the regulations are. If you evacuate, the CDC, some places are still completely following the CDC guidelines. So that's a great link there to be able to go to there and see what their guidelines at this point in time are. Go ahead, next slide, please. There we go. I won't go into a great detail here, but this was created by the Times-Picayune down in Louisiana. We got permission to use it in our preparedness guides, and really it's just a great resource if you want to just print that page out and give it to folks, because this basically very simply explains to you how to segregate your debris in your yard for pickup. We've been very fortunate. Our large debris pool was basically vegetative debris. We had very little of the other types of debris. But for a larger storm, we're going to have all these different types of debris, and they have to be segregated. They can't be all put together. This is a great resource to tell you how to separate and what you need to separate and how to put it out. And this is exactly what we do in Beaufort County as well. So that's a great resource. Next slide, please. All right, so take this, keep this, write it down. You will see in a few slides in the future, and it's actually in our preparedness guide. It's printed everywhere. The county used to have a 1-800 number that's been in place for a long time. We called it the 800 Hurricane Hotline. Unfortunately, during COVID, the county has the number. They do a test on it every year. Sometime between their test and at some point of the year, between that and their test, the number went dead. it did not work. It turns out that the company that had that number, I guess, went out of business. Who controlled that number? Whoever got the company or bought the company, what have you, took those numbers and redistributed the numbers. So they gave it to somebody else. So one, I feel sorry for whoever ends up with that number because it is so used so far and wide. But this number is the new hurricane hotline. It's an 833 number. So please write it down. If you have the hurricane guide that in your email, when you print it out, write it. And you will see a very large public information push in the next several weeks on this number to make sure folks are aware that that number has changed. So it's a big change this year with that number. So write it down and share it, and you'll see a big media push in the next couple of weeks. Next slide, please. There. So evacuation. As you are all aware, Beaufort County is a single evacuation zone. So if the governor orders an evacuation, it's the entire county. Now in the last couple of years, or actually after Irma, if you guys remember for Hurricane Irma or Tropical Storm Irma, they only evacuated the barrier island. That wasn't in our in the hurricane plan for the state at that particular moment, but kudos to the county and everybody who came together with the governor's office and had some hardcore discussions about, look, we don't need to evacuate the entire county. Here is our most concern. You know, the barrier islands are the largest risk that we have. So the governor, fortunately, he just ordered the evacuation of the barrier islands. And of those in that evacuation, Hilton Head was the largest population within that evacuation. So after Irma, through their after action process, they created what they're calling a subzone. So in Beaufort County is a single evacuation zone, but they created this subzone in the plan. So if they need to do that again to where they just evacuate the barrier islands, they can. So that's now part of the plan. You can see on the left-hand side, I'm sorry, I can't remember which storm that was. It was Floyd, I think. The traffic was all backed up and it's a mess. So the key there is to leave early and not get hung up in the traffic. I know for us, one of the things that really I think helped increase the evacuation on the island was the picture on the bottom right is the all the fire trucks leaving the island. That was the last group of trucks leaving the island. So should I stay or should I go? You should go. If the governor makes the decision to evacuate, it's in order. It's an executive order, which is essentially, it becomes a force of law. So are we going to come to your house and lock you up and haul you away? We don't have the resources to do that. So it's still your decision. In my opinion, a bad decision, but it's still your decision. But it's still enforceable of law. So think really long and hard about when you choose to stay, especially if you're on Hilton Head, because if the storm is bad enough, all of our resources will leave the island, depending on what the storm and the storm track is. So there will be no EMS or law enforcement or fire on the island. You'll be completely on your own. The other thing to think about is if the storm reaches a certain level in speed, we won't respond to calls anymore. We actually stop responding to calls. So think about that when you make that decision. Public information for the town, we have 4 really good and 5 really now with Instagram. We just recently put Instagram up, so it's beginning to filter now. Facebook is our heavy hitter because we're able to put larger information on there and more content. Flickr is a great resource. You can go on there now and see pictures from, I believe it was Dorian, is still up there, but there's a whole lot of pictures up there from the town. So what we're going to try to do in a large event is to have our staff upload pictures to our Flickr account so it'll be available to you so you can actually go in and kind of see what's going on. And anything that goes on Facebook also goes on to Twitter. So we push it there as well. And then our YouTube channel is huge. I'll touch on that one really quickly. Is with YouTube, we actually film our EOC planning meetings for Hilton Head. So if you want to see what our planning meetings are, you can actually watch two of our meetings and see everything that's going on. They're a little long, but we've had some good feedback on the fact that you can actually hear what we're talking about, what we're planning to do. Thank you. Next slide. And we always partner with Beaufort County. We always look at what they're doing. They're sharing our stuff, we're sharing theirs, and they've got a great social media presence. The sheriff will tell you that they learned a lot after Matthew, and they have really ramped up their social media program over the years. They've got Nixle, Facebook, and Twitter, and they've got a great group of people that do a great job on social media. And so if you're not signed up for Nixle, it's a great tool to sign up for. There we go. Again, all these numbers are in our preparedness guide and or in the state hurricane guide. But remember, the hurricane hotline reentry number is a new number, but all those other numbers are great resources. DOT has got a great website. If you're evacuating with their 411, you can go in there and see what all the roads are blocked and all the other good stuff. It's a great resource as well. Go ahead, next slide, please. All right, really quickly, I wanted to talk about the town. The town has Pulse Point. Pulse Point is designed for sudden cardiac arrest. So if you have the Pulse Point app on your telephone, so you download that app, put it on your phone, and if somebody goes into, you download the app, register for it, and then you sign up to follow Hilton Head Fire Rescue. So if you are on Hilton Head Island and somebody dials 911, it says, there's a cardiac arrest at Shelter Cove. When the dispatchers do their thing and start to dispatch units, you will get an alert, a really loud alert on your phone that says there's a cardiac arrest, where it is in Shelter Cove, directions on how to get there, and where the closest automated external defibrillator is, an AED. So it'll tell you all of those things. So if you're in a public place and the cardiac arrest is in a public place, it'll alert you if you're within a certain range of that, so you can go help if you so choose to do so. So it's a great tool that we're proud to have on the island. Next slide, please. And there's a little bit of a side benefit. It's kind of hard to see on this slide, but those hearts are actually calls that fire rescue has been dispatched to. So if you're on the island, you can kind of see what's going on. What they won't do is, if it's at a private residence, it will not give you an address. It just says a general area. You'll see that it's in a general area of where that call is. But if it's in a public place, you'll get where it is. So that's a good benefit. So you kind of can see kind of what's going on. And the red ones are active calls, and the gray ones are calls that are no longer active. This is the coolest slide here for me, related to Pulse Point. That is the location of every single AED on Hilton Head Island. So you can see it's a pretty impressive coverage of automated external defibrillators on the island. So they're there. We have it inside of Pulse Point. So if there is a cardiac arrest nearby, all of those devices are available and can be seen. So I thought that's a really cool slide. Next slide, please. So I'd be remiss, every chance I get, I like to test our program or put it up against a standard. So these are 3 standards that we put our program up against. The National Weather Service has Storm Ready. We've been Storm Ready for many years. They come down and evaluate our plan. They evaluate our 911 center, how we disseminate information. So we've got that Storm Ready designation and carried it for several years now. Beaufort County is also Storm Ready designated. Tsunami Ready is another one. That's a unique one. We partner with Beaufort County to get the Tsunami Ready designation. So we may be the smallest entity on the East Coast that's Tsunami Ready designated, but same process. They check out our plan. They look at our tsunami plan. They look at how we disseminate information, all that stuff, and they designated us and Beaufort County Tsunami Ready. The other is Hurricane Strong. It's from FLASH. It's a Federal Alliance of Safe Homes. They have a Hurricane Strong designation, which looks at more from a town perspective. It looks more for code, building codes, heights, how many feet above baseboard, all that kind of stuff. So they put that, they look at all those things, and they designated us Tsunami Ready, Hurricane Strong. it was cool that when we got the designation, they told us that we were the only entity in South Carolina that was designated hurricane strong. So we thought that was kind of cool. And then Beaufort County also in the last month or so has been designated hurricane strong. And I think the next one may be my last slide. That's the fire rescue annual report. It's a cool little resource, even if you're not on Hilton Head, or if even if you're in Bluffton. It's got this year it's got a great little archive. It's got a page on COVID-19 and the town's response to that and all the things associated with it. And it also has a archival history. This year we put in the emergency management one to talk about how many times we've opened our EOC since 2016. So we've opened our EOC 8 times in the last 6 years. So it's pretty impressive. The other thing is on our website is their archive. So if you wanted to go back and look, we have got in our 2016 annual report, we've got two pages, a great historical archive of Hurricane Matthew. So that's a great little piece of history if you want to grab that, to be able to go back and see the town's total response to that event. And this is available on the website as well in issue. So it's a magazine you can flip and download if you want. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Fire Station 2 in Sea Pines. Brand new fire station. It is fully open and operational as of last month. And if you get the opportunity, go by there and drive by. It's a beautiful station. And knock on the doors and tell them you want to take a look inside, because it's a beautiful, beautiful firehouse. And I think that might be it. Yep. And that's my contact information. If you have anything questions, comments, if I get calls all the time, people asking questions. So if you got anything, just feel free to give me a call. If you're in Bluffton, if it's municipal, Lee Levesque with the town of Bluffton is their new emergency manager, and he's a great resource as well.
Tom, thank you so very much for joining us tonight and for giving this wonderful presentation. We really do appreciate you, and hopefully you'll get a little bit of rest sometime soon. So look, it's time again for our second raffle for a $50 gift card. And Tom, before you head out for the night, can you pick number 1, or let's see, 2 through 9?
Let's go 4.
All right, that is Harry Voskanian. I'm not saying your last name correctly, Harry, but you are the winner of a $50 gift card. Congratulations. Harry, are you there?
I'm here. Hi.
Hey, congratulations, sir. You're the winner.
I'll be at the Bluffton office tomorrow morning picking up all those flyers. I had them print them for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, not a problem. I'm not for sure. I think that Andrea has them at the office. So, Andrea, I think you're still on the call. If you can confirm that, that'd be wonderful.
I do, and I'll make sure that it is with your copies, Harry.
Thank you. Thank you, because I don't have that much color ink in my whole world.
I understand completely. Well, thank you so much. And to everybody who joined us tonight, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Our Atlantic States Management team appreciates your business, and we appreciate referrals too. So if you all by chance know an area, community, or condominium that you think would really benefit from a fantastic management company, please send them my way. You have my email address. It would be wonderful and much appreciated. Andrea, do you want to add anything before we go?
Thank you so much again, everyone. Just to reiterate what Lynn said, thank you so much for taking out time tonight to join us.
Y'all have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much and have a good night.
Thank you. It was very, very informative.
Thank you. Tom, thank you again very, very much. Have a good night.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Everyone. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.